Hi there, I'm Peter Whittle. Now, over the past year, you'll have seen that we have been ramping up our network of NCF Locals, but I think the time has come to, refresh our memories about it. I'm very, very pleased to be joined here by Stephen Balog, who is our national organiser. Stephen, what are Locals?
Well, we've been steeped in it for the last 18 months, actually, since we started our first pilot. But we've had so many people turn up at our front door recently that and asking the question, what is Locals? That I thought, well, why don't we get together and just talk about it a little bit, share notes about what it is. So NCF Locals is fundamentally a series of geographically rooted local groups, such as in Salisbury or in Hull or in Leeds, in Edinburgh and so on. But it together is starting to make up a real national movement with an identity that is partly about rootedness, but partly about that sense of a whole national movement.
Yeah, and it's been, it's down to you, of course, but I mean, the spread of it has been remarkable, isn't it?
Absolutely delighted, of course. When we started off in Southend last year and then Manchester and so on, we didn't quite know how it would work out. But so many people came out of the woodwork and said, I would love to have a group in Carlisle or in so many other places. So one of the things that's drawn us to the 26 places we have now is willing volunteers on the ground who say, I'd like to set it up and I'd like to keep it going. I'd like to develop it. And that's the really important thing.
And so what are say in terms of numbers, what are we talking about, like in the coming sort of 6 months or so?
Well, so we grew very rapidly, didn't we, in the spring, more or less doubling in just a few months. Quite rightly, I think we took a pause over the summer, so we reached 26 different groups. When we do resume, we're making sure that all of those 26 groups are in root health, going concerns, that there is a life in each of those groups. We'll continue probably at a steadier pace. We want to reach all of the cities we haven't touched on yet, and some of the major university towns. We think they're the next ones. We do want to reach the more rural areas. We're coming up with imaginative ideas, the idea of a micro group that maybe is on a smaller scale. So watch this space. If you don't have a group in your area yet, then we will reach you eventually.
I think the thing is, what is the important thing to say about Locals is that no other comparable network actually exists, right? Does it? And now more than ever, I think, is when we actually need, a mass movement. I mean, I don't mean to be too grand about it, but you've got to think big, haven't you? How do people join?
So, come along to an event. We are publicising, it's building up to maybe 10 or 20 events a month now. So watch out for NCF publicity.
Well, we put them out, don't we? Yeah.
Yes, on the channel, by Twitter and so on. We also now have a simple page on the NCF website, which actually really just leads you through an email address to being in contact with us. How do you join? Well, we invite you through a registration link to get on board. Very simple registration process, no financial commitment. We take the minimum of information, and then based on where you say you are, we say, okay, well, that's going to be Hull or that's going to be Birmingham. And we plug you into a group, or at the very least a region, so that you feel a sense of belonging. And then you take your place. You may be just the recipient of occasional emails, go on the discussion forum on the community platform that brings people together, or come along to one of our events.
And what can they expect? What can people expect when they come to an event, do you think?
Well, so they'll, starting from the sort of the ground up, there'll always be an organiser there. Sometimes it's an organiser team. That individual or the team are the sort of the centre of it. Every other event typically is a very informal meetup, just a social meetup to chat about local goings on politically and so on, to compare notes. What we're doing more and more is having a series of external speaker events. Not every other time, but maybe every third time, so that adds a little bit of additional interest, draws more people in, and so on.
Well, in fact, some of these though actually have been really impressive. I mean, there was one in Beaconsfield, wasn't there, with Eric Kaufman.
Yes.
About 100 people there?
Well, it was a very large number. It was well over 60, if not more. Yeah. So, yes, we are finding that, and we have next week in Newcastle, as we film this, there'll be Joanna Williams, the author, right. And that is a sellout. So we're having to put people on the waiting list. We've got a good lineup. Watch this space over the next few weeks and months, because we are finding really good, prominent individuals drawn to coming to speak at NCF Locals, because they recognise actually that it is a little bit special. People who in their ordinary walks of life would feel disconnected are coming together and actually touching, the real sense of movement that they're craving, real sense of political movement.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because people want to be very active politically as well, don't they? Quite rightly. There is a social aspect, but they want to campaign on things, whether they're national or local. Age range pretty much across the board, isn't it?
Well, so absolutely. I was in Bath on Tuesday, just gone, and we had the entire range from second year university students right through to people who have seen quite a few decades. Male and female, just mixing gloriously. I remember that event in Brighton that we had back in early February, a sort of glorious mix of people. So there's nobody it isn't for. Anyone of goodwill who is of independent mind, who would find themselves naturally broadly aligned with NCF ways of thinking, come along. We warmly welcome anyone new. There's nothing like a closed shop or cozying up. We break ourselves open every time to welcome newcomers.
Right, so if people are sort of like seeing our discussion for the first time, what should they go to the website and click on Locals? Is that what they should do?
So more or less. We've been quite discreet about our presence online, because we don't really we try to keep out people who are definitely going to be destructive rather than constructive with us. So the way in is either to write to our Locals mailbox, which is locals@newcultureforum.org.uk. Just send us an email and we'll come back to you. But now the only online presence we have that's visible is this web page on the NCF website. So if people go there, they can find it, and that more or less leads them in the same direction. Eventually, we'll have other ways of getting through the front door, but we're going to be very cautious. We don't want people just to rush through and then we realise that we've let a few through that we shouldn't have done. Right. So it's a balance. It's a balance to be struck.
Okay, then. So what we'll do, we'll put under this video, we'll put Locals, the email address, and obviously the website. Obviously, it doesn't need to be said, but this is, well, first of all, it's one of the most important things that we've done in the NCF. And also, basically, it is, I think, going to grow in importance over the next 5 years, and we see what a terrible wreck this government is. I mean, and with all these issues like free speech that are really coming under the hammer now, I mean, it's going to become more and more important, isn't it?
Well, I think so. And we ask very little from the people who register for NCF Locals and become part of it. We ask for respectful and discreet conduct. And that's the sort of deal that we have with everyone, so that they feel genuinely that they can open up in ways that they can't elsewhere, and they can share their concerns, which are hugely increasing as a result of this new government. And what we hope we do is we create that sense of togetherness, purpose, confidence. We do get more political. We get more cultural as well. We've got different strands. We want to be promoters of the rediscovery of culture around the country, so that we become a true all-round powerhouse, and anyone can be part of it in any way they want. That's the lovely thing. Well,
I think it's inspiring, and I mean, I think you'll get an awful lot out of it. Stephen, thanks so much for joining today. Stephen Balog, our national organiser. Okay. Locals@newcultureforum.org.uk.